Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. All right, let's do it. Actually, hold on. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Decided to change up the morning music because, the market's looking jiggy these days, and I'm kind of into it.
That's dope. I love it.
So, today is another day, another pre-market conversation. As usual, thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you, Olivier, for making it.
No problem. I hope you guys are doing well. And still prayers up for Chris.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So today I have a quote that is more like, I don't know, what am I going to say? I think it's the intro, like a quote that Bruce Lee says during Enter the Dragon. And the quote goes, "Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You can put in a teapot and it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend." And like when I think about the best analogy for my trading style, I always kind of think of like that Bruce Lee sort of like 3-inch punch method, where it's just like a really focused, very specific point of attack that happens with just hard intent. And I like this water thing as well, because it's like, look, I still don't know what's going to happen in the market. We could take a nice big pullback today. We were at the lower end of the range that I'm looking at. We can go down for a bit if we're going to stay here. We could also recover and have one of those, hey, who cares what happened yesterday, bullish days. Oil could go to the moon. It could go to the ground, right? So with all of this stuff happening, I'm just trying to keep my head on a swivel, be very alert, be proactive, and be like water. Whatever needs to happen, I'm with it. Anybody else have a quote for the day? And if not, I'll just go start talking about futures pretty quickly.
Wait. Okay, I have one. Okay. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1, Warren Buffett.
I got one.
Hit it up, man.
Good morning, everybody. Don't go broke trying to prove to people who are. Hold on. Let me say it over. Don't go broke trying to prove you're not broke to people who are broke. Let's get this money, stay positive, and stay focused.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one. This isn't the exact quote, but it's around the market is a timely device that transfers wealth from the impatient to the patient. Warren Buffett as well, I think.
Oh yeah, that's a really popular one. Yeah, I'm really into that idea as well. Being patient and staying in cash. So many people I've been talking to this morning alone and yesterday too, were just confident to stay in cash. I stayed mostly in cash yesterday. And just gonna keep doing that until I get some sort of clear direction. So yeah, I agree. Can't wait to take some money from some impatient people. Well, with that said, let's talk about some futures. You guys could tell, like, I totally just had this fantasy of being a radio host, and here we are actually doing it, but with no, I don't know, this just happened this way. Okay, so if we look at crude oil, we're still on a pretty serious uptrend. Oh, sorry. So somebody asked me to be very specific about the futures and the tickers that I'm looking at. So for crude oil, I'm looking at the ticker is /CL. Um, and we're looking at the March 2021 future contracts very specifically because there are multiple and they change as we go through time, right? So if we back out and look at this thing on a 6-month, 4-hour chart, you can just see we've been uptrending, since God for time memoriam, right? And in general, right now, we definitely took a little bit of a pullback yesterday, but we're just primed. And so the cool thing about crude oil and oil in general is that it's still deeply tied to how our economy works. It's deeply tied to the power and infrastructure. It's deeply tied to our industrial section. And so this is something that you can kind of very confidently know will always have demand until everything is EV and nobody uses plastic and every machine functions off of, I don't know, whatever, solar power and right. So with that said, I always like to look at crude oil futures as just a pulse check for how our economy is moving. And if we look at it, man, we are increasing in terms of our demand. We have limited supply, and that's still having a great effect. So when I want to play crude oil, there's a bunch of companies. We've talked about them, Oxy, Chevron. There are also ETFs and ETNs. These are like paired units that you can just trade based off of this movement. And so two that I talked about earlier this morning, and I don't know why I'm going into tickers right now, but here we are, is Gush and Drip, right? And these are 2x leveraged ETFs that follow this crude oil. So you can play it both ways without even having to short the market. You can have a taste of that. And if you look at what's going on in the overall market right now, looks like we're pulling back yet some more, right? And crude oil, look at the level of pullback that happened there. Completely different looking chart, right? So this is something I want to see, things that defy the overall market expectations. And right now, crude oil is doing that. If we go over to the S&P 500, and the ticker for that is /ES. We're seeing this storyline develop, so yesterday, we looked at it and I said, well, I see the space for a pullback. We're kind of in the middle of this chart and this pattern that I've drawn, and I can explain this pattern that I've drawn too. So I drew trend lines basically from November, let's see here, November 18th, on that low, and I followed the lows, also encapsulating that kind of bigger dip that we took in February. And that is my lower trend line, right? That's around 3,650. And then I have an upper trend line looking at the highs from that same date in November, going all the way to, if you just follow the highs, it's following this trend, right? So this is how I looked at my upper and lower boundaries for this. And then at the same time, I also drew a line straight down the middle and marked a middle line for this. Now, if you're looking at that shape, it should look like a backwards triangle, like a megaphone, right? And we call this higher highs and lower lows, right? So there's an increase in volatility. There's an increase in the amount of distance that this price is moving. And for a large part of this, it has stayed in the upper half of this megaphone shape that I've been seeing. And it's so much so that I actually drew another line that bisected the upper half of this middle line, right? So I have 4 basic quadrants where I'm looking for price action on the S&P 500 futures. And currently right now, we are right at sort of a decision point for the second half of the upper half of the range that I expect this to be trading in, right? So with that said, my new current lower boundary is around the 3,800 level. Currently, we're at 3,900. there's a decent amount of space we can go down, and it's not going to be crazy. With that said, jobless claims just rose for the second straight week. So hey, I'm open for us to rebound and go up, right? We could be building a support here. At the same time, I'm still open to the idea of us going down as well, and I have levels for both of those, right? So if we hold the support at 3,900 and continue to uptrend, that would be one thing. If we fall below this, let's see, and stay under 3,900, I could see us dropping another 100 points. God, I mean, if we look at the bottom half of this chart, I could see it dropping another 300 points, right? And all of this would still be within the realm of healthy, ironically enough. But it just gives me levels for what I'm looking at. Now, that's the S&P 500, which isn't tech heavy as the Nasdaq, right? So if we look at the Nasdaq, well, the Nasdaq took a little bit of a bigger drop yesterday. And in that same thing, I drew basically a very similar shape, right? This expanding megaphone shape. I keep talking about it, and I've drawn extra trend lines around it to try to make it make sense to myself. But sort of a similar thing. So the bottom of this shape for me in the NASDAQ starts well, you can start it from November, mid-December. But it's the same thing where I just followed those those lows, and I drew a trend line there. And on the other side, from the exact same time frame, I drew a trend line that covers the highs. Right. And then I bisected that in the middle and used that as a point to gauge, hey, are we kind of bullish or bearish feeling? Now, whereas the S&P 500 futures are still over the top half of my megaphone shape, Nasdaq has already broken into the bottom half, right? So like I said, the tech pullback was a little bit bigger. And so for this, I'm already looking at it and saying, well, hey, we're kind of in a situation where I'm looking for it to build support, but I don't know where that support is going to last, right? It could be at 13,400. I see that. That's 175 points below us. If we hit the bottom of this shape and continue for a dip like we took, what was that, last week? Then we could go all the way down to 13,100. Honestly, that would be right in line with that last bigger dip that we took. And at the same time, if we're going to build up and hold over, let's say 13,600, 700 even really in that zone and start to make our way back into the upper half of this megaphone shape, I could go bullish again. But right now I'm kind of looking to see, hey, when's this pullback going to end? I'm expecting kind of bearish movement. I don't know what's going to happen. But these are my thoughts. And as usual, so we look at the Russell, and for the first time, honestly, the Russell took a fairly big pullback as well, and that's okay. I mean, this thing has been uptrending. If you look at what it did in the past, week alone, right? We went from 2,000 all the way up to 2,300. So that's a great 12% increase, something like that. Sorry, 15%. And now we've taken a small pullback from 2,300 back down to 2,250. Right. So this isn't really worrying me. And if anybody who's been trading smaller cap stocks, we know that the small cap stocks have still been having a lot of momentum, right? Have still been kind of booming and doing what we expect small caps to do, which is with that low market cap, with that smaller float, be more mobile. And they have been, and it's piqued a lot of the interest. So many people come in here and kind of stay away from the larger market cap stocks just because they're interested at that lower price point. And that's okay. This index has reflected that and continues to reflect that. Haven't taken a smaller pullback yesterday than either the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ index. And so that's what I got so far for futures. Is anybody else taking a look with me? And does anybody else have any comments about any of that? Also, for people in the audience, I actually get a couple messages about it every day. And if anybody else has a question about futures or what we're looking at, I definitely really welcome people to come on stage and ask about it because I think this stuff is really important and gives us a good pulse check on what's going on in the market. And that's why I go over it every day.
I got a quick question. Hope it ain't a dumb question. For futures, right? Are you just looking for certain price points, or do you actually have indicators up like we do when we're looking at regular stocks and ETFs?
So for me, I'm just really looking at price action, and it's giving me overall measure. And also, there's no such thing as a stupid question. But I'm just looking. I want to see an overall health check for the market, right? I have no intentions of trading this, and I don't really think about it as trading like a stock. right? Although it does, but I'm really looking at this just to see the overall health of the market and the overall health of certain sectors. And yeah, I really want to. I use it also as a gauge for, right? Everybody talks about a crash. How do we know if there's going to be some sort of pullback coming? This for me is how I know. As we moved into the market yesterday, we saw that nasty downtrend that started, right? And this is how I kind of looked at that and said, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about my trading today. We've entered ranges that I feel like are conducive to more of a bearish movement. Or when you see that support being formed in the futures or the regular indices themselves. But futures definitely are just very reactive to news. They're very reactive to the whatever's going on in the market at the time. Oh, hey, Texas is even more frozen. Okay, cool. The futures are going to react. And also they're traded 24 hours a day. Right. So it gives you time to see how people are feeling at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at, whatever time. So yeah, it's a big pulse check, and I do not use indicators on it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, with that said, let's move on to our next segment. Yo, Jake, welcome to the stage, man. Sorry, I just added you. Did you have a question about futures before we go on to our next thing?
Yeah. All right. So I'm fairly new, still learning all of those things. But so you said you use futures to gauge the market. So in terms of you're saying like if you're investing big money or small money, or are you holding stocks, or what do you mean by gauging the market?
Great question. So I want to gauge if the overall sentiment in the market is bullish or bearish. And deeper than that, I want to know, are people buying or are they selling? Right. So when I say futures, and what are the futures? Well, the futures are people who are speculatively trading the future potential for underlying indices, right? And the underlying indices are the S&P 500,
Okay.
the Nasdaq, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Russell. And so all of the stocks that we're trading are usually in any of those. I mean, there are other ones, but those are the main ones that we're looking at sort of for most of the stocks that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when we see those major indices, it's just a basket that really contains everything that is in that index. And so the futures, because they trade 24/7 and because they're a little bit more speculative in terms of how people feel about the future of an index,
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to give you a little bit more of a clear idea on the sentiment because people are trading on the future of it, right? So if we look at the Nasdaq once again, and like, what are the major stocks in the Nasdaq? Well, we have Facebook, Apple. It's the tech-heavy index, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could look at any of those individual stocks, right? I could look at ETFs that contain them and say, hey, so this ETF has gone up over the past whatever month. But if I want to look at that index as a whole, I have to really look at the three Qs, right? QQQ is the major index for the Nasdaq, and the
Mm-hmm.
pair to that one would be the /NQ futures. Right. So if I know that the major index that contains all of these stocks is overall going down, I'm not going to have a lot of confidence in trying to play bullish calls or bullish plays on that index. Right. We looked at the market go down for the most part yesterday. And it was difficult, especially in the beginning of the day, to really find something that was going up. Right. But it's cool. We looked at the futures. We looked at those indices and said, well, overall, I see that the trend is down.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you said that Nasdaq is for tech, and what would be the S&P 500?
The S&P 500 is the smalls and poor index of the 500 biggest companies in the U.S. economy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so remember when Tesla got added to the S&P 500, where it was
Yeah.
originally on the Nasdaq, and that was a big deal, right? People looked at that and said, and we had a big boost in that. So that's where the S&P 500 falls in. It's kind of like the larger cap stocks, and then like above that would be the Dow Jones, but I don't really want to talk about the Dow. And then underneath that would be the Russell, right? So the Russell 3000 index, which is a lot of the smaller capitalization stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen how these all have reacted differently to different
Gotcha.
news, right?
Okay.
Nasdaq being so tech heavy, as tech is booming, Nasdaq has been booming. And at the same time, if we look at it right now, Nasdaq has taken the biggest pull back because we all noticed that tech has been booming a lot. Tech has been oversold. Every day we could talk about XOK, SMH, any of these like parts of the tech sector that are just going crazy. Whereas the S&P 500 hasn't had quite that much. These are just the 500 biggest companies, not just the 500 biggest tech companies. And the same thing with the Russell, where it's not nearly going down by as many percentage points because it's not so heavy in the major sectors that have been overbought.
Okay. Okay. So just, I'm sorry, figuring things out. But okay, so based on those things, you decide what what companies you'll invest in versus, like, you have companies that you have on your watch list, and then you kind of section them off to say, all right, the Nasdaq is going up, so I'll look further into my tech companies versus my large cap companies where the S&P 500 is going down. Is that
That is no, that is absolutely a way that you could use it.
okay?
And the way that I use it really honestly is as a large scale momentum indicator, right? Trend indicator. Hey,
Okay.
because my watch list doesn't change. It's not that dynamic all the time, right? I have like 5 stocks that I want to trade on a weekly basis, and those change for the week, or by situation. But hey, is the overall market going up and down? And if it's just, going down, I definitely won't. I will definitely wait and see if we can form a support. Or if I think it's going to continue past those, when I looked at the futures and I said, well, hey, under this number, I actually could see it dropping down fairly far, right? If we go under those like support and resistance levels or those action levels, I will then change my strategy entirely. And maybe go for more of a bearish call and start to trade, whatever S triple Q or UVXY or SPXU. So it really just depends. It's just one of the things that I use to determine. There's no overall rule, and it can be useful for anybody's type of trading. Right.
Yeah.
So you can do what you said, where it's like I come in here and talk about the Russell kind of not responding nearly as strong as the Nasdaq and the S&P, right? So you could take that and say, like you said, I'm going to look into small cap stocks right now. I know that they're less likely to take a large pullback, and that there's more resilience right now in that market.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I took a lot of notes. I appreciate it.
No, man. Thank you so much for asking. I really think that was important, so that's why I took the time to go there with you. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Let's do a quick refresh.
Good morning and welcome to the Stockhouse Premarket Show, the first place on Clubhouse you should check in the morning to get all your stock news. We are not financial advisors, and this is not financial advice. This is a conversation amongst friends that love talking about stocks and want to improve our profitability by coming here every day and talking about the stock market, what works for us, what's going on that's relevant, and how we're going to use that information to profit. We think education should be accessible and affordable to everyone, so we have a completely free Discord that has tons of resources, over 1,600 amazing members, and it's all different skills levels that are talking about the stock market and trying to grow as well. We also have free classes every single Sunday, and we would love it if you all, whoever's listening right now, would join that community and contribute, because together we are so much more powerful than we are individually. And
All right. Now for the segment of the day. Yeah, you guys know what time it is. Trash trades. So yeah, now's the time where we kind of have people come on stage or the mods, if you guys have them, and talk about trades that they made that didn't go the way that they thought they would. Also, we can just talk about, things that you did that you thought definitely could have been improved, right? So for me, yesterday, I really learned a lesson in just being patient a little bit. I just entered into, I think I was looking at Qualcomm a little bit too soon. It wasn't really a big deal. But at the same time, I always say, like, hey, take the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the market, and really gauge what's going on. Some people won't trade for the first 30, right? But definitely the first 15. And so sometimes after these shows, I get really excited and I just want to hop into a position. I really want to trade. And I looked at the futures and I said, this really isn't the best time. So I hopped in and then quickly hopped out. I'm not afraid to take a 1, 2, 3% loss, as opposed to trying to hold on to something that is obviously downtrending. And if you look at how our watch list panned out today, basically everything did have some upward movement, right? QS, which I came in here and talked about, had a humongous day. And so it really was, not only is it about finding stocks that have good momentum, that have a fundamental reason behind them, and a company that you probably would believe in, but at the same time, it's entry and exit, right? You can have the greatest stock that does nothing but go up. How many people have lost money on Tesla? But if you look at the overall chart for Tesla, the thing is a rocket ship. Right. So for me, just a continuing lesson in patience, because it was an unnecessary piece of a trade that I made. Anybody else?
I saw CLPS running, and I seen some people I fuck with that were getting into that, and I got in at like 15.9, and my number was 25%, and I watched it go to like 19, and I was at like 21, and then it started going down, and I was like, nah, it's gonna find support, and then yeah, I basically ended up just waiting too long, and I lost like $5, and I was just like, man, I should have just pulled at 20.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Sometimes it be like that. Anybody else have a trade that they made yesterday or previously?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey. So I felt yesterday I was looking and waiting for ARC to get a bottom because I was trying to get a nice re-entry, and I'm looking today and it's the market is super down pre-market, so I felt like I should have waited a little bit longer, at least a couple of days, just to see what the overall sentiment was, not just from the start yesterday. I honestly thought it was over, but clearly assumptions is not good, so definitely jumped in too early.
Yeah, man, that timing is such a key important feature. So, that's kind of why we have to keep reiterating within ourselves. And like I've, made kind of a fairly large statement to say like, we have to actively combat FOMO. I don't trade penny stocks. I don't like to trade hype stocks, but if too many people hop in and get excited about it, it's hard not to pull up a chart and look at it. Right. But having that patience really is important. So thanks for that one, man. Oh man, we had David on the stage and then he kind of dipped. Good morning, Ashley. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you? I wanted to I think for me yesterday, I really learned about entry point, which is something I've been trying to work on. I had a stock beam that I am in it for the long term, but when I purchased it, I just kind of went off of, I had bought a couple and they ran up, and so I bought it way too high. And I think if I had kind of looked more closely at futures, like support, etc., I would have seen that there was going to be a pullback and could have exited and then bought in at a much lower price, which I think is a great opportunity in this market. So yeah, I'm just soaking it all up in terms of learning about the futures and really like looking closely to see if this may be a good time to try to make some changes in terms of entry points.
We like that sort of stuff, for sure. And I agree with that thought process, actually. As with everything, a dip is just a buying opportunity. A pullback can be a great opportunity. And as long as we just, don't try to predict the bottom and don't try to predict the top, right? So many people kind of hop in early, and that's what got me. That's what got Chris, right? But the truth is, there's no reason to. It's so much better because look, I gave up a little bit trying to catch it, trying to catch. We call it, like you say, don't try to catch a falling knife, And so trying to catch it as opposed to just waiting for the confirmation of the trend reversal, hopping in, having price targets based off support and resistance or Fibonacci, and paying attention to the trade. I think you're right on the right road, Ashley.
Thank you.
Good morning, David.
Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing?
Oh man, another day in this market is worth a week in another person's market, right?
Yeah, very true. I know yesterday I bought into E-bond. I was just going to day trade it, and I bought in, and right after I bought in, it just started tanking down, and I thought about reloading or setting the stop loss. I ended up setting the stop loss, and it tanked all the way down to $8. And then by the end of the day, it was back over 11. Would have made an easy 10% day trade profit if I had just had the balls to stay in it. But that's...
Ooh. But here's my thing, man. I feel like that's like the entry and exit situation again, because who wants to hold on to something that long while it's just diving like that? And I'm with you, right? We talked about Ebon here, but yeah, it's an interesting one. How would you have played that differently next time? Are you a diamond hands person? Did you believe in that company? Would you have just held on to it, or would you have kind of waited and done a different entry?
Just judging by the way that it's been recently over the past few weeks and the fact that it was sort of at an all-time high. I mean, I was already a little nervous, but my buddy was like, trust me, just go in. You can make easy day trade on it. So I did a little research and I was like, all right, I think if I were to play it again, next time, instead of setting my stop loss at 9, I probably would have just set down to average down at 9 and then set my stop loss maybe 2%, something less than that to see. And maybe I would have grown some more balls when I averaged down to hold on and see what happens. But I was already a little nervous because it seemed like it was higher than it had ever been. And the fact that it had already been on an uptrend all week and with the way the market was, I was already a little skeptical, but I gave it a shot.
Hey, no, I hear you. And also, just for people knowing, do you trade equities or do you trade options?
I trade shares and options depending on the stock. E-bond, I just bought in for shares just because I didn't know enough about it to try and time an options price, and I'm glad I did. Otherwise, I probably would have lost 60% or more on an options.
Exactly. So I was gonna say, like, as an options person, man, that whole situation would have terrified me. But yeah, no, thanks for sharing, man. I think that's a good one. Does anybody else have anything? And if not, we'll move on. Yo, this is another, like, one of my favorite times of the day. Let's talk SPY. I love to talk SPY. Okay, so here we are on SPY. And if we look at what's happened over the past 3 days, basically, I mean, we've just had a nasty downtrend off this all-time high of 395, and we talked about it like last week at some point where it's like, I'm expecting SPY to hit 400 this year. I'm expecting SPY to hit 400, fairly soon, to be honest. But right now we've bounced off of that high and we're doing a nice retracement. And so in this retracement, we're right under the 50% level. If you go from the low on February 10th up to the 100% would be kind of the high for that day at 392, and then our 161 extension is going to be our high of 395. And Fibonacci retracement or extension works where you take the high and the low point And it's going to give you a percentage breakdown of the averages of how those prices may potentially fall and potential support and resistance levels. And right now it's kind of adding up, and it's been something I always employ when I'm just looking to sort of figure out like, where am I, on this chart, and where can I sort of at least look to expect this thing to move, right? And so for me, that low that I'm looking for is 387. And so we sit here at 389. We closed yesterday at 392. That's already telling. Now, if we can go back over 390 and hold, I could once again have a little bit more of a bullish feeling about the day and be looking to, to retrace into 391, 92, and eventually 95, an uptrend. But as we see the whole market going down, I'm really looking for. I want to see if we go to 387. Right, like that will be my activation point for, okay, we're really taking a dive. We sit at 389, and like I said, 387 was the low that we hit on that last pullback that we had last week. And I want to know if we're going to retest that level again. As we hit that level, I want to know if we're going to hold it as a support and we're going to start to see consistent support there, or if it's going to turn into, we're going to fall under there and it's going to turn into a resistance that we need to break through. And we've talked about the market not having, a lot of catalysts. We're looking for things to get excited about right now. People are dying for EV news. We're dying to hear something about power. We know that the energy sector and the oil sector do have, are definitely booming. And there's parts in the market that are booming. But overall, what I'm hearing people say and the sentiment is like, hey, things are on discount right now, but I want to see how much of a discount they're going to be on. A lot of people are waiting, and this SPY level where we're at in this chart sort of reinforces that ideology. So yeah, SPY's, hey, I'm still excited about it. I'm not going to lie. I just have my levels right over 390, looking to push to 391. I could get excited. I could get a lot more bullish. As we sit under 390 right now, I'm looking for maybe a little bit more of a bearish move, and I want to see how far down we can go before we form a support. But I could go either way on this. So I have my activation levels, and I'm just going to see.
So would you wait for both those numbers to buy either a call or put? Or would you jump a little bit earlier?
Oh, no, I would wait even lower. So honestly, I would want to see at least 388 before I start buying puts. And on the other side, I think 391, right? Because I expect it as we hit 390. As it has the potential to be a little bit of a support or a resistance. So around these support and resistance levels, you'll usually see like a consolidation, and it'll kind of jump around these levels. And so you want to see it establish and confirm that support or resistance before you take that position, right? So it's not enough that it hits those levels. I want to see, 1 or 2 5-minute candles that continue under. Some people go for 3 15-minute candles to have a confirmation, right? So whatever fits your time frame of how you trade would be a little bit more equivalent to looking for that confirmation candle situation. But yeah, it's not just like it tips it and then I hop in, or that's definitely not what I would advise people to do. Okay,
yeah. I was gonna play puts on SPY yesterday when it was teetering about to go under 391, I think. And I was like, oh yeah, I know for sure it's gonna hit like 389. And I was just too scary to do it. And then like later I checked and I was like, fuck, I would have been printing right now.
Yeah, I think that like with all of this stuff with support and resistance and trading off of a chart like this, like all you have and all we ever have as traders is our own confirmation, right? So that's why I talk about it every day and continuously kind of push other people, how do we get better at technical analysis? By doing it, right?
Yeah.
And having that fortitude, that strength in our own calls to say, no, I've seen this happen before. I will watch it happen again. I believe in this support level and I'm going to take a position. Also, like when I'm looking at SPY, like I really want to trade like SPXU and SPXL because those give me the leverage, right? So I can look at SPY and say, okay, cool, I really have my activation numbers. But if you want to day trade that or, take smaller, quicker moves on that, you can also hop into these leveraged ETFs, which are going to give you a little bit more, have cheaper options chains, and are going to respond literally exactly to that chart.
For sure, yeah. I'm just a little too new at it. Like I was looking at the chart like super close, and I was messing with like the RSI, the MACD, and all this different shit, and just looking at a bunch of different stuff. And like I feel like I just don't have the confidence yet to really be to really like feel confident with me like making money on these red days. Like I just like I'll see some shit, but I'll just be like, I don't know. I just don't want to jump right now. And then like later I'll be like, man, I probably should have jumped. But
No, Daniel, I wouldn't be. I'd just be nice to yourself, man. You know, this is you want to build your confidence, not like kind of tear yourself down. I think
yeah,
this would be
yeah.
a really, really good opportunity for you to paper trade. You're not confident. You do have some idea of what you would want to do. Paper trade it. See if it works. Back test it.
Yeah, that's
See
a
if
good
it
point.
works. Build that confidence. You know, so many people are like, oh, I'm not ready. And it's like, you'll never be ready if you don't give yourself the tools to. And in this market, there's really only one way. It's market experience. And you're here every day. So I know you're getting that experience. You know, I know you're hearing new things. So many people come here every day. Piece by piece. I paper trade when I'm trying out different option strategies I'm not comfortable with. Piece by piece, I sit here and look at charts and very rarely take positions compared to how many times I draw the chart and look at it and think about it and do the fundamentals. So, you know, you're right in line, man. I think you're progressing like at a great level, and just, you know, keep giving yourself those tools and that space to continue to grow and learn, as opposed to, you know, because I feel like it feels like a little bit of a FOMO thing where it's like, I could have made all this money. Like, you will make all that money as you get more confident.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start paper trading a little bit. I've been like just waiting on it, kind not waiting on it, but like do I do a but I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that for sure. Cause you're right. Like that's exactly the thing I should be doing right now. Cause I'll be like, man, like I want to see how this would work out, but this and that. So
All good. So damn, I've definitely kind of messed up our time frame, and I want to do a couple of things at once. So I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, but I want to talk about the sector indices real quick, and then we'll talk about the news, and then we'll get to a watch list, and then we'll start trading for the day. So all of them. XLB, we've seen hold support near the 74 region recently, and it bounced off of that low at the 70. And this has to do with all of our mining stocks, right? All of our pieces of power. It has to do with steel. It has to do with, I don't know, all of our materials section. And we're seeing this thing kind of constantly uptrending right now off of a recent support that we hit at the beginning of February. And I look at this not as deeply as XLI per se, but it definitely plays a big role in a lot of our emerging technologies and industries, whether it's semiconductor, whether it's solar power, whether it's like housing, homes, and construction. Like all of this can be kind of looked at from XLB as one of those. And we're still continuing the uptrend. It's definitely an upward and ascending channel. So there's a high and a low range in this uptrend. It's not straight up, kind of like crude oil is right now, but that's okay. I like that. If we look at something like XLE, the energy sector has boomed, right? And that's in direct relation to what's going on with crude oil futures. We're kind of, if you compare the charts even, you're going to see a similar thing. And in general, I mean, this thing is holding support, is continually uptrending. I'm really excited about the future of the energy sector. It's been one of the worst performing sectors for the past year or so. So it's nice to see them kind of coming up and doing really well. If we look at our financial sector, now we had that sort of large double top that we saw the other day. And we're still continuing to get that double story of, hey, some of these companies are involving crypto, some of them aren't. We're waiting to see how crypto adoption affects our financials, and that's an ongoing developing thing. I've been talking about XLF for weeks now. I'm still holding long calls. I definitely am up like 170%. The story of XLF is the story of the American economy from the hedge funds, from that perspective, and I always want a little bit of exposure to that, although not as much to pure crypto things. If we look at XLI, our industrial sector, we have just bounced off of a high again. right? So we're getting, it's like a triple top at this point. And that's kind of concerning to me. I do believe in industrials. I do still think that industrials are also telling a story about reopening and about how commerce is moving in America. But hey, we're seeing a little bit of a stopping point, right? There's always something here that is stopping this major indice from continuing the uptrend, and that's okay. But it just gives me an idea. Hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to be trading airplanes right now, right? And also, if you look at what the 3D printing sector has done recently, like it's also on a wicked downtrend. So honestly, I do look at this as a little bit of a buying opportunity. But I want to see where we find support for everything going on in here, but very specifically what's going on with 3D printing. And then last but not least, we'll look at XLK, our tech sector, which took a huge pullback. We were at the top of our channel and we have taken a large pullback overall. We're sort of in the middle of this range for me. And so the lower end of that is going to be around 134. It currently sits at 135 and the high was at 139. So I'd actually want to see it test the bottom, I guess, in this circumstance. And I'd love to see how far down we go before we form a support, kind of the story for the market for the day. And last but not least, XLY, consumer discretionary, the Nikes, the Lulus, the Pitons, whatever it is. Also bounced off of a high recently, got rejected. It was at 173. It now sits at 168. We have what's going on in Texas. We have still no report on when stimulus is going to come out. And I feel like consumer discretionary very specifically is a big part of that. We also saw Walmart down today. They did not beat earnings. That's kind of a big deal in this sector. And those are my takes on our sector indices as of now. Because we kind of took a little bit longer today. Does anybody have any news that they want to talk about? And then we'll get straight into our watch list for the day.
Okay, so the hearing for Robinhood and like the GameStop stuff is today. And I think AMC and I forget what the other one is like reacting to that. And then also the jobless claims data came out and it was higher than expected. And analysts think it may have something to do with like GM and Ford closing plants due to the shortage in semiconductor chips. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Anybody else have any news stories that they're looking at for the day?
I didn't even know the semiconductor space was so big to GM or Ford like that.
Yeah, man. What do you think makes these cars run, right? Our cars, like if I don't know, people who fix cars and stuff like that, like you buy like stuff that's in the 90s, my first car was like a 96 Honda Accord. You can fix everything on that. Nowadays it's a lot of computer. There's a chip in there that does that energy EcoBoost thing. There's a chip in there that regulates basically everything, right? I have a Prius now. God, that thing is basically a computer on wheels. And they talk about Tesla being completely computers on wheels. So yeah, it's a big thing and it's limiting their supply. They said we can build cars. That's not a problem. We think we're going to have a problem dealing with semiconductor shortages. So very interesting, actually.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I honestly didn't, I thought about that, but like, I didn't think it would be like, hey, we're closing factories type. Like that's real interesting.
Hey, it just is what it is. It's something that I've kind of been following along as well. So other kind of major news, obviously Texas power outages just fell below 600,000. So that's cool for an update. Maybe we'll see some sort of turnaround on that. PLTR has been on a wicked downtrend for the last 3 days. And part of that is that the IPO shares are unlocked for trading. And there's been like a major firm that said that they didn't like how PLTR conducts business and that they want to sell a lot of those shares. And I believe they hold like 1 million shares and they'll sell as quickly as they can. So that's a little bit of some bad news that happened. Biden team pressing Taiwan allies on auto chip shortfall. So Biden's going to get involved inside of this semiconductor shortage. So I like that a lot. I would love to hear what we get if some federal funding towards semiconductors. That actually is pretty big news. And something else I just saw is Apple hiring engineers to develop 6G wireless. So we keep talking about 5G and 5G infrastructure and who's going to do it. But I've been in other rooms where there's 6G, there's 7G, there's 8G already. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make much sense to me. But I think we're going to see an expansion of not only 5G plays in companies as it becomes the major technology, but 6 as well, as we're already hearing talk of it. So some kind of interesting things on the tech side. Anybody else have anything? And if not, we'll get straight to the watch list. Okay, let's do it. Let's hear somebody's watch list. But we're kind of, running quick on time. So I'd like to hear everybody's kind of top one. And if we have extra time, we'll kind of go around again. But for now, one thing on my watch list, I guess, for today is Apple. The last time I checked, we were around the 128 level. Yesterday, we were at 129 and took a nice, recovery from that. And I would love to see just how she reacts. Apple's been kind of downtrending and not really moving as much as I'm not used to seeing her. We have a lot of good news there, obviously, for the company. So I'm just looking to see where we find support. If it recovers from this level first thing in the morning, I'd like that. If we go down to the 126 level, which has been a historic support, I'd like that. But she's just on my watch list. This is a stock that will constantly give you the volatility that you want if you are sort of a day trader or short-term swing trader. And she's just been downtrending, although I have literally no bad news. So I'm looking to see where we're going to buy that dip. Vanessa, you have anything for today?
You guys know, like, I watch the same stocks every day, but I'll probably be watching nano dimensions and looking like for an entry, probably somewhere around here. I like this. But I'm just gonna, that's my stock. I like the 3D printing sector. So yeah.
Olivier.
I'm also watching Apple, and in DM, I'm actually buying that open. I've had a lot of people tell me that that could bounce to 20. But that is your sector, Vanessa. Don't get me wrong. I'm also looking at Shopify and Fubo, and that's pretty much it.
You got any levels for us? Also, the whole 3D printing sector is like on a super pullback right now, you guys. Like, if you look at the PRNT, like ETF, like this is a knife. I would wait.
Yeah,
personally.
I completely get that. I was just looking at level twos and word around the street, and that's why I was going to get in DM. In terms of Shopify, it's just down, and Shopify bounces back up. I actually learned that from Mikhail, but PLTR as well, it's been falling, and it is because 80% of the shares that that company holds are being sold. And Fubo, just because, I mean, it's just a diamond in the rough, and it looks like it's trending.
Word on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Hey, Fly. Good morning, man. What's on your watch list for today?
Good morning. Good morning. It's a lot. I'm gonna just stick to one. I posted the whole list in our Discord. Y'all be sure to check that out. I'm looking at Netflix. My entry is 546.60. My price target is 586.36. My stop and my exit is gonna be 540. And the analysts have an average price target of 632.90.
No, excellent. And I also appreciate that you always have your price targets and levels. So that makes it so much easier for people to understand. And like, I try to, influence everybody to just throw that in there when you talk about these trades, at least for people who are hearing, you don't have to trade like us, but you can at least hear the mindset that we have. And hopefully it can inform other people. So yeah, thank you so much, Fly. Chris,
Appreciate
hey
you.
man, how's it going today? Do you have anything on your watch list you want to share with us?
Nope, nothing in the watch list. I think I made my stock trade of the day yesterday. I just got to watch it to see how low it's going to hit, and just hope the recovery is going to be short and sweet. So I'm already in for I guess for the next 2 months or so. I'm already in, so can't really do nothing much about it.
Oh, I hear that. Okay. Let's go down to David. Do you have anything that you're looking at for today? Sorry, actually, let's go to Daniel. Jake, I mean, do you have something? I don't want to be like that, but I just kind of pushing for people who are kind of here a little bit more regularly. But if you have a stock you want to share with us, I'm down.
Yeah, not yet. I'm still learning. Thank you for asking. Tomorrow I'll have one, I promise.
Okay,
I
for
got
sure, man.
some that I have on my watch list, but I want to have more confidence in it. Thank you.
For sure. Daniel, do you have a stock on your watch list that you want to talk about for today?
I'm just trying not to catch a falling knife. I have a few different things that I'm looking at, but like you said, like the 3D sector, I want to see where it actually bottoms out and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, man. David, do you have a stock you want to share with us on your watch list for today?
I'm looking at QUIK, Quick, a semiconductor company. They're already up pretty massive. I don't know if they're actually going to go above 1150 to 12. I think if they can hit over 1150 and they have volume, they might end up going to 15, 16. But I think if they don't get enough volume and they stay below, they'll probably drop back down. But it's just a gamble stock in the semiconductor field. They're already up, I think, 50% in pre-market. But
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. Kit, good morning. Do you have any stocks that you're looking at on your watch list you want to share with us today?
Good morning, everybody. I was actually looking at ARO, AYRO. I don't have entries or exits just yet, just because I've been kind of like looking at what is going in the sector. I know when the market is down, it's a good day to buy. It's just like, what is going on in the world today? But yeah, AYRO is the one that I'm actually looking at, and then also was looking, and I'm so mad I didn't do it earlier. I think it might have been Fly who said it about getting a put on Tesla, but yeah, those are the two things I'm watching to see if it's still worth putting a put in or waiting until it starts to go back up to put a call in. But that's it. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. And AYRO is one of those interesting EV companies that has like a really specific use case, kind of like Workhorse. So it is an interesting one. Thanks for sharing that. Good morning, Rawa.
Hey, I was on another screen. Morning, y'all. I'm looking at the VIXs, and hopefully I can get my my long lost love SOXL I've missed since yesterday. It's getting closer to its previous support at about 611. There's still $20 to go, so we'll see what happens today. That's it.
No, I love that, especially now that we have some, like some push on the semiconductor industry from Biden. I am really into, let's see if we can play this indice. I'm just with you on this one. Now is my time to also be interested into Soxel as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that I like got the profits yesterday, but I don't know. I feel some kind of way about not being able to hold it all the way through the split, but that doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing wrong with trading in and out.
And then last but not least, Jay, welcome to the stage, man. Real quickly, do you have a stock that's on your watch list you want to talk about?
Hey, sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm watching these two. I'm not necessarily gonna play them, but I've been paying attention to HL for a while, Hecla Mining, and they beat earnings. Their stock's down this morning to like 591. They've kind of like been in the $6 and change range. So I'm just interested in seeing what's happening there, if anything's gonna happen there. They were kind of on an uptrend for a while. And they've been going down for a bit now. So just something that I'm paying attention to. And then also I'm still paying attention to Pepsi, like trying to see if it's ever gonna make that turn to go back up because I want to ride it back up if possible.
No, awesome. And maybe I'll throw one last one in at the end, and say like I was in another room and somebody else talked about Home Depot and their fundamental logic behind it, besides the fact that Home Depot is a giant in the industry, is that also when we look at like reconstruction that's going to need to happen for whatever's going on in Texas, when we talk about building materials for new homes, when we talk about, if you look at the chart right now, she's had a huge bounce off of the lower range that we're looking at, and there's actually still a good amount of upside. And there's a good fundamental reason, and the technical is saying that the momentum is on right now. So I'm not hopping in, but I definitely want to see if that momentum carries on in today. Yeah, Home Depot is HD. So with that said, I just want to thank everybody, all of the moderators. I made a bunch of you guys moderators. You show up every day, and I really do appreciate that. I want to thank everybody in the audience, and please follow all the mods. It's not just me, right? Look how many people come here every day and give you guys, just the best of their abilities, some really great trades. Our watch list is a combination of all of us, and it has been insane. So I really appreciate everybody so much, and I hope you people in the audience give them a follow, send them a DM, like their picture or something, because they're so consistent in coming here. And then people like David, who's like always in our Discord, or people like Fly, who's in the Discord and on here every single day. Kit, it's so nice to see you every single day. Same thing with you, Rawa, our resident affirmations queen. And also for Chris, Daniel, Jay, you guys are here every day. And Jake, thank you for hopping on stage, man. This is the first time I've recognized you, but you're always welcome to hop on stage, and everybody's welcome to hop on stage and ask questions. That's super okay. So I want to actually end when the market opens this time, and we usually end it with an affirmation session. And here we go, Rawa.
I am becoming a successful stock trader. I will make huge amounts of money on the stock market. Oh, Winnie, no. I will become a wealthy stock trader. I'm so sorry. I will always take...
Wow.
I will maintain sound judgment at all times. I will continue to build my portfolio and perfect my trading efforts. Success on the stock market is becoming a reality. I will learn everything possible about the market. Making accurate forecasts is becoming easier and easier. My trading efforts are becoming more consistent. Good luck, guys. Sorry about Winnie.
It's all good, Rawa. Thank you so much. And we like Winnie too. So I'm feeling inspired, ready to get jiggy with the markets today. I hope everybody has a great trading day and stays green, and we'll see you after market.
Much love, y'all.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Eric,
Talk to you soon.